Hey Brian, how are you?
Hey Matt, how are you?
Good. Wanted to ask you about the screen game. You've had quite a bit of success with it this year. What do you think has led to the improvement in that area?
We put a lot of time um, into it in the off season on Zoom calls. You know, myself along with all the assistant coaches, we really went back and we studied our stuff. And we studied the league um, and just really try to tighten up all the coaching details that we could, um, and then presented it to the players. And in the off season, we did that. Um, And then when we got here, that's one of the things we added. We'll present it to them as we do the running game too, and really try to fine tune it. The screen game, usually when you go back and you study it, which we did, it's a hit or miss thing. There's some really good ones, and then there's a lot where they just, whether they play it or a guy slips off on it. Um, but it's something that you need offensively. It helps against good pass rush teams, and we're a throwing team, so that helps. But um, something that Matt we did a lot of work on, studied it a lot, had a lot of good conversations with the coaches, and um, it's something we need to continue to try to work on and get better at.
How did you kind of relay that? I mean, what did that work look like in terms of conversations on Zoom with your coaches and studying film, but then relaying it, I guess, to the guys
Yeah,
remotely?
just like this. You get a computer, you flip it around, you're watching it. Had some meetings with all the coaches, had some with whether it's just running back, the line coach, receiver coaches. Um, Technology is a pretty amazing thing nowadays. So we made the most of it. Again, nowhere near perfect or where we want it to be. We'll keep working on it. But, um, after you get that and you go through the evaluations of it and you maybe concrete some rules up a little bit more, whether it's landmarks or the backs read with the tackles or how you want the tackle to set or the first guy out or the second guy out or if a guy holds onto you, D lineman, whether you take them. There's so many little details that go into it. Um, then the coaches did a good job of relaying it. Bobby did a good job of writing them up of what we really studied and group effort.
How much have you seen Josh grow? And I guess you would call them the easy throws, right? The screen, the quick throw. How much has he grown in that area?
Yeah, I think probably like all the other areas, it's not just the touch, it's the eye control, it's the make the drop look exactly like you are in the pass game. It's whether you want to look off or you want to look at the guy, like there's the quarterback is just as important on those screen games. Maybe the throw and all that stuff is obviously has to be there, but the little tiny things that he can do to help out those. I think Ken and Shay and those guys did a really good job coaching up the details on that too.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Good question.
Hey, Brian, John Warren, AP.
Hey, War.
Hope you had a good Sunday off, or at least got some time to relax. But a lot is, we always hear a lot about how Josh Allen is maturing into a leader and has matured in his development. But it's rare that fans get to see the unfiltered version of Josh and him finding maybe the right things to say and doing it even bluntly, as we saw in that video of the post, celebration, breaking the huddle in the locker room in Denver. Just what do you make of, just the unfiltered way he put it, but said it forcefully, and I'd like to get a bleeping Super Bowl champion shirt. What do you make of what do you make of that? And when we get to see that side of him.
Well, he's our leader of our football team, and this is his third year. Uh, we all on our team have of an ultimate goal, but I think his focus on one game at a time and how he's approached the season and how he's done it since he's been here. Y'all know what a fan I am of Josh Allen, and I've been since he's been here. Before the draft, uh, he he's just a really good leader for us, John. He speaks his mind. He's humble. Uh, we all have goals that we want to achieve as a team, and that was the first one. And I think that he was happy about how we played and his performance, but there's a big picture to this thing too, and you can't get too high or low in this league. It'll hit you pretty quick if you do. And I think that's just, his way of saying that's kind of on to the next week pretty quick. And that's how he is. And that's not coach speak or anything. That's the way he is. I talk to him very often, and obviously he was happy about what this team accomplished, but he was, he's already on to the next week quick. What do they look like? What are they playing? Are they doing anything different? What have we done? Like, that's the type of guy he is. That's the type of leader he is on our offense, and I'd say on our team. So I'm just proud of him. I've been proud of him since the day he walked in the door, and he needs to continue to get better. He knows that. We all do, and it's just a pleasure to be around, a pleasure to coach.
And I might be repeating myself, but in a different way. When Josh, a couple of weeks
the
ago.
answer you were looking for?
Yeah, well, no, it was. It was a very good answer, but in a different way. And I appreciate that in a different way, because I really want to see your reaction as somebody who's bonded with Josh and the relationship that you have with him. When he says, there is everybody's motivated by fear, and when he says the fear of failure, the fear of letting my team down, the fear of letting Brandon Beane in the front office down, the front office down, the people who chose me. This is before you even arrived. The people who drafted me and took a chance on me. That fear is what drives me. I know it's a bit of the same way of the first question, but when you hear something like that, I don't know. It kind of it blows me away in some ways.
Yeah, that's he's a highly competitive, mature player. I mean, that's why we selected him. We did a lot of due diligence on him. He's got a lot of great qualities about him: leadership, toughness, competitiveness. I'm proud of the way that he handles himself as a quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. It's he's done a lot for this team.
Thanks, Brian. I'll cede my time because I'm getting chided by Graham on the chat. Thank you very much.
You got it. Thank you.
Hey, Brian, it's John.
Hey, John. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I know this has been touched on a little bit, but what is it like for you to do your job and do this and focus on what you're the task at hand? But it's real. It's out there. Your name being floated for other bigger and head coaching opportunities.
You're a creature of habit, John. You come in, you go to work, and the day after the game, you do what you're supposed to do. The day after the game, you move on to the next week. I was watching New England here for the last few hours, and again, with all due respect to the question, it's really hard to win in this league. Fortunately, I've been in it for a long time, for 20 years, and you just learn real quick that you better focus on the thing that you can control, the task at hand, and whether things are good outside or bad outside, you can't control those. You can't let your mind drift into those, because then you wouldn't be doing your job as good as you can do it, and that's what you need to do. Everybody, whether it's an assistant coach, a player, an equipment guy, a video guy, particularly at this time of year, when obviously we qualified for the tournament, but games only get harder, and you better be at your best, and you better be dialed in at this time of year, because one slip up and you're not where you want to be, and it's the worst feeling. Trust me. I've had the opportunity to work and coach in some big games, and win some division titles and all those other things. And it's not really the games that you win you remember too much. It's the things that happen in those losses that eat at you, and that eat at you, whether it's 2 years or 5 years or last year, whatever it may be. And that's where your focus needs to be. And that's what I try to do.
A lot of those memories I know are rooted with your time with New England. I know you've faced them before. I know you've been there before, but even having done those things since leaving there, Just facing them or being back in Foxborough, does that conjure up any different feelings for you than a normal game?
No, I mean, you have a tremendous amount of respect for the people that you worked with there, and whether it's from ownership or the head coach or the assistant coaches, but when you're in this league for 20 years, you're playing a team that you worked with somebody, or whether it's in the scouting department or not. So just a lot of respect for those guys and how they go about their business. And it's always a challenge, whether it's New England or the Jets or Miami, when you're playing in the division. And it will be for us this week. They're the 7th ranked scoring defense in the league. So it's really the next game, John. That's hate to give you coach speak, but that's really what it is.
No, I believe you. I appreciate it, Dave. Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Hey, Brian, Dan Fates in Rochester.
Hey, Fitz, how you doing, bud?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Thanks.
It was interesting when you get to see, I feel like when we get honesty in this business, it hits a chord with us. And Josh said that the deep ball that he threw to Stephon Diggs in the third quarter, he called for, and you gave it to him. I guess, how often does Josh call for plays this season, or as he's grown into this system?
Yeah, and I've said this to you before, Dan. It's such a collaborative effort, and there's things that happen throughout a game, or something somebody notices, and whether it's Josh or whether it's Diggs or Bees or Dion or whatever it may be. Those guys, good information for a coach, whether that's an assistant coach, a coordinator. That's what you're looking for. It's such a collaborative effort. There's the ones out there doing it. I've had times too where, oh gosh, it just felt like there was 14 guys out there and we missed this block and this, and then you're getting bad information and you're trying to change something upstairs or downstairs, and you're trying to say, okay, how can we fix this now that happened? And bad information usually leads in bad decision making too on play calls. So when you have a group of guys, players that you trust, coaches that you trust, there's shared investment in this thing. It's the greatest team sport in the world. So there's not another guy that I have more trust in than Josh. So if he's asking for something downstairs, or he sees something, he's usually right on with what he sees out there or feels, and he's got good communication with the guys and the skill guys and the players. And as a leader, that's what I would hope he would do. And as long as it's the right information, that's good. And he's pretty good at that. So and you guys know the confidence that I have in him. And
yeah, and I know it was talked about last year when you made the decision to go up in the booth, and it hasn't, it just seems like it's continued to roll. Is that changed? Do you take more input for guys now that are on the field, and the vibe and the communication between you and Josh now that it's separated?
No, not really. I mean, we have a very good staff, and we have good players in terms of the communication process of it, and that's a testament to Brandon and Joe and Dan and Terrence and Malik and all those guys that bring these guys in. We look for smart, tough, dependable guys. And when you have that, and you have a team that can openly communicate and see things the way, and you got to teach it. You got to make sure you're teaching the right stuff to them so that their information is good information back to you. And again, it's not just the quarterback. It could be a center. It could be a lineman. It could be Skip, the running back coach, Doris, the quarterback coach, the line coach. Look, we're in this together. It's a team sport, and a collaborative effort. And that's how we've set this thing up. We've got a lot of trust in the guys that work with and that play for us.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Hey, Brian, Jordan LeBarber here with Bears.com.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Your name's up, no picture.
Yeah, you know what? Believe it or not, I got the last laptop without a camera.
Okay, I got you. Whoa.
Kind of a funny stat that came out. It looks like Stephon Diggs has more production on hitch routes than any other receiver on any other route.
You broke up, Jordan. Sorry.
Stephon Diggs has more production on hitch routes than any receiver in the NFL on any other route. I guess I'm wondering what you think plays into that, whether about his game or maybe even his communication timing with Josh.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's pretty productive on all his routes. I think he he runs a wide variety of routes, and I'd say he lines up in a wide variety of places. So didn't know that stat, but whether there's places to go with the ball for Josh, and if they give us the right look based on the play that we have, that's where he's going to go with it. Obviously, from the sound of it, there's a bunch of hitch routes in there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Brian. You said earlier.
How you
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
You said earlier that you had started on New England. I'm sure you've probably gone back and watched the first game. What did you make of that performance by Josh? And what challenges does this defense? I know Stephon Gilmore will be out, but what challenges does this defense present for you guys next Monday night?
Well, they're well coached. They have good players. They don't give up a lot of big plays. They don't give up a lot of points, and that's usually the making of a good defense. Playing good red zone defense, not giving up points, being good tacklers, not giving up big plays. They've always been a week-to-week team in terms of trying to game plan for their opponent. So exactly what they'll do, I'm not sure, but it's always a tough game against Coach Belichick and Steve and those guys on the defensive side of the ball. We played it a certain way that game. Josh made some good decisions. Again, it was a tough game, went right down to the wire, without that turnover there that we got at the end. Who knows where it would have been. You play division games. They're always tough. They know you know them. It's going to come down to playing good, smart, clean football, taking care of the football, executing in the red zone, converting on third down, and doing a good job of executing.
I talked to Dawson Knox, I think it was a couple days ago, and he'd mentioned just how important Tyler Kroft has been for him and supportive of him, even while he's going through a stretch where he probably would love to be on the field, but obviously a good teammate. What do you make of how Tyler's handled that and what Dawson has done with what seems like extended opportunity here the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think that's tough for any player. Ty's handled it like a pro, like you would expect him to. He's got great attitude. He's a good teammate. It's never easy for anybody. You want to be out there and contributing on game day. Unfortunately, you can only bring so many guys, and that's the type of guys that, again, the management and Sean have brought in is guys that are good teammates. And Doss is in his second year. He's had some games where he's been out injury wise, and he's done a really good job. I think he's improved these last 3 weeks. He's got a good room with Tyler and Lee Smith in there. Then, Rob Boris does as good a job as anyone I've been around coaching tight ends. So, we just gotta keep cranking. We got to keep getting better. Again, these games won't get any easier.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Brian, Mike Catalana.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hey, good. I know you're focused on your job, like you said, but, and maybe you don't know about this, but you've been getting a lot of TV time lately. I mean, they're talking about you. It happens. Friends, family, that kind of stuff. Do they know not to be talking to you about that kind of thing? Do you block that out? Do you know how to deal with that? I just asked Sean about it because he's been through it.
Yeah.
When he was in Carolina, when success comes, it comes with it. But, you are getting a lot of that. How do you deal with it internally, maybe with people you know?
Yeah, the same way that I answered before. I mean, you can't get too high or too low in this business. I've been around staffs and had friends that have had opportunities to go on and take higher positions. And it's just the way it is in probably any business. The minute you start thinking about other things, the minute you start slipping on the job you have, and that's not my nature. That's never been my nature. Not how I was raised. Certainly not how I would raise my children. I just think you have a job to do. You do it to the best of your ability every day, and certainly some things are humbling, and you appreciate that, but you never let it set in because you worry about the next game, the next thing you have to do. And most of my family's sleeping when I get home and sleeping when I leave too. So
Are you aware that the networks are looking for you in the booth?
No, I don't. No, I don't think that.
I didn't think so, but I figured people always would ask you about it if they see
Yeah.
you all the time. All right, thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you.
Hi, Brian. Dante Lasting.
Hey, Dante.
There was a special moment at the airport where Josh was so eager to see Stefan and how he was going to react to seeing Bills Mafia for the first time. Could you explain how you've seen the relationship grow on and off the field throughout the season?
Steph and Josh?
Yes.
Yeah, they're really close. They first met down there, and it was Florida when they threw. And then when they got here, and I know they're, get out their headsets on and all that other stuff that most of these young guys do nowadays in video games. And they have good conversations. I know they talk a lot in the meetings. They're out there on the practice field. They have fun. They're very similar. They're highly, highly competitive. They got a lot of respect for one another. And it's not, we have a lot of guys like that out there, a lot of guys. And Steph has fit right in with our receiver room, but has become an active leader for us on our field. And obviously Josh is our leader. I know they got a tremendous amount of respect for one another for what they can do in terms of their craft, but how they go out and do their daily business in terms of how they compete. Highly competitive, and that's what we encourage here, is to be highly competitive. They have a good relationship. I think it's probably that's what I've seen. You got to ask those two about it personally, how they see it. But we got a lot of close relationships on this team, and that's important.
Definitely.
Not just on the field, but off the field.
Yes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach. Kevin.
Hey, Jeff.
I'll preface my question by saying I know there's always room for improvement on things offensively, but when you think back to training camp and when things started, has this offense reached the point where you thought it could reach with how it's performing week in and week out, where, I mean, it seems like every time you touch the football offensively, you're expecting points?
Yeah, that's always the case, Kevin. When we're playing offensive football, you're trying to score every time you have the ball. It's been a growth process for us here. We've had to figure out our pieces and the pieces that whether it be Steph or whether it was Gabe or Reggie came in now, and where everybody kind of fits. And again, you didn't really get to see that in the OTAs, obviously. So you had to kind of fast forward it pretty quick and see what you could do in training camp. And each week it's gotten a little bit better. We kind of feel we know who we are right now. And again, every week for us is different based on what we're getting and how we're getting played. But, you go back to the foundation of what we believe, which is do a good job of playing smart and tough and dependable and being high character, have great work ethic, put the team first, and, use our pieces the way we can use them. They've done a good job. We're going to continue to need to do that. We left too many points out on the board against Denver. We had 3 touchdowns called back, didn't execute well enough in the red zone. So there's a lot of things to work on. And again, I've said this, I mentioned it before. It's that one play or that one call you make or whatever it may be that, at this time of year, one of those plays happen, you move on.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, that's all for today. Thanks, Daboll.
Hope you guys have a great holiday next week here, and appreciate the time.